You know what makes my blood boil? When wrestling fans sit there and pretend they saw this coming. When they act like Roman Reigns breaking his silence after the Usos absolutely demolished Logan Paul and Paul Heyman was some predictable moment we all anticipated. Because let me tell you something right now, nobody saw this coming. Not you, not me, not a single soul in that arena or watching at home. And if you're sitting there nodding your head saying I knew it, then you're either lying to yourself or you haven't been paying attention to the absolute masterclass in psychological warfare that just unfolded before our very eyes. For weeks, Roman Reigns has been silent, radio silent, gone, vanished into thin air while chaos erupted around his throne. And you want to know what the most infuriating part is? We let ourselves believe he didn't care. We convinced ourselves that the tribal chief had lost his grip, that his empire was crumbling, that maybe, just maybe, his reign of dominance was finally over. We were all wrong. Question for the comments: how many of you genuinely believed Roman had lost control of the Usos? Drop a 1 if you thought the bloodline was done, drop a 2 if you knew something bigger was brewing. Let's rewind to that brutal beatdown. Logan Paul, say what you want about the guy, love him or hate him, was standing in that ring, and then bam, the Usos came out of nowhere like heat-seeking missiles locked onto their target. And it wasn't just any beatdown. This wasn't some random attack for shock value or cheap heat. No, this was calculated. This was surgical. This was a message written in chair shots and superkicks that echoed through every arena in the WWE. But here's where it gets even more twisted, even more psychologically disturbing. Paul Heyman, the wise man, the special counsel, the man who has stood beside Roman Reigns through thick and thin, who helped orchestrate the longest and most dominant Universal Championship reign in WWE history. He got caught in the crossfire too, or did he? See, this is where my brain starts working overtime, and this is where you need to pay very close attention because the details matter here. When the Usos were laying waste to Logan Paul, when those superkicks were flying and that steel chair was crashing down, Paul Heyman wasn't just an innocent bystander who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Paul Heyman was in that ring. Paul Heyman was part of the target, and that changes everything about what Roman Reigns just revealed. 4 days after this attack, the wrestling world went into absolute meltdown mode. Twitter exploded. Reddit threads multiplied like rabbits. Wrestling podcasts couldn't talk about anything else. Everyone had a theory, everyone had an opinion. The bloodline is fractured. The Usos have gone rogue. Roman has lost control. Solo Psycho is making his move. Paul Heyman orchestrated his own attack. The conspiracy theories were coming faster than superkicks at an Usos match. And through all of it, through all of the speculation, the debates, the arguments in comment sections, the think pieces from every wrestling journalist with a keyboard, Roman Reigns said nothing. Not a tweet, not an Instagram post. Not a single word. The tribal chief went completely dark, and that silence was deafening. Drop your answer below. What drove you more crazy during Roman's silence, the actual attack or the fact that he refused to address it? Let me know in the comments. But here's what we failed to understand in our rush to judgment, in our desperate need to make sense of the chaos. Roman Reigns doesn't operate on our timeline. He doesn't jump when we say jump. He doesn't explain himself because we demand answers. The tribal chief moves when he decides to move, speaks when he decides to speak, and reveals his hand when the timing serves his purpose. Not ours, never ours. And when he finally did break his silence, when those words finally came out of the tribal chief's mouth, the entire landscape of WWE shifted beneath our feet like an earthquake had just split the ground wide open. Roman didn't apologize. He didn't condemn the Usos. He didn't rush to Paul Heyman's defense or promise retribution. No, what Roman Reigns did was so much more calculated, so much more strategic, and so much more terrifying for everyone involved, including Logan Paul, including Paul Heyman, and including every single person who thought they understood how the tribal chief operates. He acknowledged it, he owned it, and in doing so, he revealed that every single thing we witnessed wasn't chaos at all, it was order. His order. Think about the implications of that for just a second. Let it really sink in. The Usos didn't go rogue. They didn't act out of anger or rebel lion or some spontaneous burst of violence. They acted with purpose. They acted with permission. And if Paul Heyman got caught in that storm, well, maybe that was part of the message too. Maybe the wise man needed to be reminded that in the bloodline, there's only one person who calls the shots, only one person who sits at the head of the table, only one person whose word is law. Comment below, do you think Paul Heyman was always meant to get caught in that attack, or was he collateral damage? Give me your honest take. Logan Paul walked into this situation thinking he was a main event player, thinking his celebrity status and his admittedly impressive athletic ability would carry him through WWE waters. And look, credit where it's due, the guy can work. He's put on some legitimately great matches. But what Logan Paul failed to understand is that when you step into the Tribal Chief's world, when you start orbiting around the Bloodline universe, you're not playing by normal rules anymore. You're playing a game where Roman Reigns wrote the rule book, serves as the referee, and controls the scoreboard. The beatdown Logan Paul received wasn't about a match result. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about position. It was about reminding everyone, from the main event to the opening match, from the wrestlers in the back to the fans in the seats, that Roman Reigns runs this company. His family enforces his will. His counsel advises his decisions. But make no mistake about who holds the power. And now that Roman has finally spoken, now that he's broken his calculated silence with words that hit harder than any Superman punch ever could, we have to reckon with an uncomfortable truth: the bloodline isn't broken. It's not fractured. It's not falling apart. If anything, it's more unified, more dangerous, and more dominant than ever before, because now we know that even the violence, even the chaos, even the moments that looked like cracks in the foundation were actually part of the architecture. This is what separates Roman Reigns from every other top guy in wrestling history. Stone Cold broke through with Rebel Lion. The Rock ascended with charisma. John Cena conquered with persistence. But Roman thinks. He strategizes. He manipulates. He plays chess while everyone else is playing checkers, and by the time you realize you've been outmaneuvered, the game is already over. Your turn. Who do you think is Roman's next target after this statement? Logan Paul again? Someone completely unexpected? Drop your predictions below. Paul Heyman's role in all of this remains the most fascinating puzzle piece. The wise man has been eaten alive by speculation since that attack. Some say he orchestrated it to test Roman's loyalty. Others claim he's been too close to Logan Paul and needed to be taught a lesson. There are even theories that Heyman is secretly working against Roman, building towards some massive betrayal down the line. But what if it's simpler than that? What if Paul Heyman taking those shots, being in that ring during that beatdown, was simply a reminder, not to him, but to us, that in the bloodline, nobody is above the mission? Not the wise man, not the Usos, not Solo Psycho, and certainly not some YouTube star turned part-time wrestler who thought he could dance with wolves without getting bitten. Roman's silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Every day he didn't speak, the speculation grew. Every day he remained hidden, the theories multiplied. Every day the wrestling world tore itself apart trying to understand what was happening. Roman Reigns was in complete control. Because the most powerful person in any room isn't the one talking the loudest, it's the one everyone is talking about. And now that he's broken that silence, now that he's revealed his hand, the entire WWE landscape has to recalibrate. Logan Paul has to look over his shoulder. Paul Heyman has to remember his place. The Usos have confirmation that they are doing exactly what the Tribal Chief wants. And the rest of the roster? They are reminded once again that Roman Reigns isn't just a champion or a top star, he's an institution unto himself. This is the reality of WWE in the Roman Reigns era. You're either with the bloodline, against the bloodline, or you're caught in the crossfire wondering how you got there. And honestly, I'm not sure which position is most dangerous. Final question, after everything we just broke down, do you think Roman Reigns is the greatest psychological manipulator in WWE history? Sound off below and let's debate this. The silence is